You know the feeling. We've all been there, right? You're standing in that long airport line, you're trying to juggle your carry-on, maybe a coffee, and you're fumbling through your bag for your passport or your driver's license. It's just a universal travel hassle. But what if you could get through every single checkpoint, from bag drop to boarding with just a glance? Well, that future is arriving a lot faster than you might think, and it's being powered by a technology that is quietly reshaping the entire way we travel. For decades, this is pretty much what air travel security has looked like: a manual, one-on-one document check. But more and more, we're starting to see this: a passenger just looking into a camera, their face literally becoming their ID. And look, this isn't just a couple of tech-savvy airlines trying something new. This is a coordinated, nationwide shift in the fundamental way your identity is verified. And yeah, that's because this technology isn't just popping up randomly in a few airports. It's actually part of a massive, coordinated strategy from the US government to weave biometrics into the entire aviation security system. The actual blueprint for this whole undertaking is this document right here, the TSA's 2018 Biometrics Roadmap for Aviation Security. It lays out the official vision and the goals for taking this tech from just a concept to a nationwide reality. And they're not just trying to flip a switch overnight, right? This is a really deliberate, phased approach. The plan starts with international travelers because they can leverage existing passport photos. Then from there, it expands to trusted traveler programs like PreCheck, then on to all domestic travelers, and finally, building out the huge infrastructure needed to support the whole thing. It really shows this is a long-term, strategic rollout designed for a gradual takeover. So that's the why behind all this. But what about the how? What exactly happens in those few seconds between you looking at a camera and getting that green light to board your plane? Well, using Delta Airlines system as our example, the process is actually surprisingly simple. It really just boils down to these 4 steps. You can think of it like a high-tech bouncer. The camera takes your picture, sends it to the main office, in this case, the government, who then checks it against their master list of approved guests. Then they just radio back a simple "they're good" or "nope" to the bouncer at the door, who is the airline. So it all starts right there, at what the tech folks call an edge device, which is basically the camera at the kiosk or the gate. Step 1 is super simple. It just takes your picture. But here's an important point. At this initial moment of capture, that photo is completely anonymous. Okay, so for step 2, that anonymous photo doesn't just hang around with the airline. Nope. It's immediately encrypted and sent over a secure, dedicated network straight to a cloud system that's managed by US Customs and Border Protection. Now, this is the most critical part of the whole process. The airline isn't doing any facial matching. The US government is. CBP's system is the one that compares the photo you just took with a gallery of existing government photos. Like your passport picture, a visa photo, or maybe a photo they took last time you entered the country. And finally, what does the airline get back at the end of all this? Not your photo, not your passport number, nothing like that. They just get a simple confirmation. It's pretty much a digital green light that says, "Yep, we found a match," which then allows the airline agent's system to pull up your reservation and let you go ahead. All right, so now that we get how the tech works, let's take a look at where you'll actually run into it. This isn't just about one checkpoint. The goal here is to weave this technology into your entire airport journey, creating a totally seamless path from the curb to the gate. So your first encounter with this might be right at the check-in kiosk. Instead of typing in a long confirmation number or scanning your passport, you can just choose the Look option, and the camera will find your reservation for you. Simple as that. Then you head over to drop your bags. Here, the facial scan can serve as your ID check, which, combines 2 steps into one. So no more trying to hand over your license and your phone with the boarding pass at the exact same time you're trying to lift a heavy suitcase onto the scale. And it doesn't stop there. The same technology then shows up at the TSA security checkpoint, replacing the manual ID check there. And the very last step is at the boarding gate, which enables what the airlines are calling a one-look and you're on process. You just walk up, glance at a camera, and get on the plane. Okay, I know what a lot of you are probably thinking. This all sounds incredibly fast and convenient, but what is happening with my data? It's the biggest question hanging over this technology, so let's look at the privacy measures that are laid out in the official documentation. This is the fundamental concern, right? Is all this convenience worth the potential risk to our personal information? Well, the source documents from both the airlines and the government try to address this head-on. So the official paperwork lays out 4 key privacy safeguards. First, they claim participation is completely optional. You can always opt out and just do a manual ID check. Second, they say your consent is required at each step. Third, that the photo sent to the government is anonymous. And finally, that the data is temporary and is tossed out shortly after your transaction is done. And here's another key safeguard they mention. The technology is never the final authority. So if there's a mismatch or some kind of error, the whole process just goes back to a traditional check. An airline agent or a TSA officer always has the final say. So what's the end game here? What's the big picture? Well, the vision being promoted by both the government and the airlines is a complete transformation of the airport experience, pushing us toward a future where our physical documents, like our IDs and boarding passes, become secondary to our own biometrics. This quote from Delta's overview really sums up the two main selling points: speed and security. The argument they're making is that facial recognition isn't just more convenient and quicker for you, the passenger, but that it's also a more reliable and accurate way to verify who you are than a human doing a manual check. And so, we're kind of left with this fundamental trade-off. The promise of a totally frictionless journey from the curb to the gate is incredibly appealing, but the price of that ticket, as these roadmaps show, is a centralized government-run system of biometric identification. So the question for all of us is, what's the right balance between that seamless convenience and the privacy of our most personal data?